can't stand.
What do you need to know from the fallout for the Thanksgiving games between the Packers, Lions, Chiefs, Cowboys, and Ravens, Bengals? How do you get your teams ready for fantasy greatness in the rest of week 13? And what do you need to do for your friends, family, and everybody else you're buying gifts for Hanukkah, Christmas, holidays, whatever you need to do for your fantasy sports fans this season? All right, I'm rambling here. We got a great show for you. Larry Schechter, the author of the history of fantasy sports and the stories of the people who made it happen, he is going to join us tonight. Plus, we'll get his take on how he has made half of his teams in the FFPC Big Gorilla into the fantasy playoffs this season. Ferrell Elliott is going to join us as well to tell us all about the KFFSC. And I'm here as well to hang out with you on this holiday weekend. Stick around. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott and Larry Schechter are here. My name is Eric Balkman, and your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs tuning in tonight. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. You can connect with me on X at Eric Balkman. You know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the FFPC, and of course the Better Sports Network's FFPC Insider Access Show. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Mr. Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to break down all the Thanksgiving games, Thanksgiving Day games that happened yesterday. We're going to talk about that Bears-Eagles game that happened earlier this afternoon and get you set for a plethora of great fantasy football matchups that is going to take you through, hopefully, your FFPC semifinal matchups in the main event and the Big Gorilla semifinals, as well as you try to win some big cash, not only this weekend, but next weekend as well. If you want to connect with us on X, you can do so at HSFF. My name is Eric Balkman, and it is my same handle on Twitter /X at Eric Balkman. Of course, KFFSC.com is where to find out more about Ferrell's KFFSC Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. You can also email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Once again, that email address, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them in. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, X posts, emails in the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend, Bryce. And of course, our producer and mutual friend, Rob. Cannot do this show without the co-host with the most. You connect with him on the X at KFFSC Official. You check out his Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. You sign up for everything he's got going on for Super Bowl Sunday coming up in February, of which I'm going to be a part of, and I'm very excited for that, in Louisville, Kentucky. Please welcome into the program, Mr. Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, good evening, welcome, and a belated happy Thanksgiving to you. How was Thanksgiving for the Elliott clan?
The Balky, same to you. It was a wonderful day. We had a great dinner served to us in a local restaurant, and everyone agreed that by the main course that we should return there next year. So we had the game won in the second quarter.
So hold on. Was this in Louisville that you were? Where were you at?
Yes, sir. We were down on Main Street, as a famous songwriter once said. We were at a steakhouse, Morton's Steakhouse, who served a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, and it was by far the most elegant and tasty and fascinating menu that I had ever had. And the bar was open, which added to all things. So
hold on. So I want to just make sure I'm understanding this.
Yes.
Correctly. You were at a steakhouse.
Yes, sir.
That featured a traditional Thanksgiving dinner. So
Yes.
you had turkey at a steakhouse for Thanksgiving?
Yes, and matter of fact, my lovely Korean little sister, Yan Hee, who's been in the country for 35 years, she looked at me and said, "Ferrell, what kind of animal is this?" I said, "Darling, that's turkey. We've just never had it quite like this." And Balky, it was sublimely wonderful.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that. That's fantastic.
They made a good old fashioned too.
Well, yeah, and listen, we go back and forth about the best kind of old fashioned. But I do like both of them. I like the Wisconsin old fashioned. I like the Kentucky / Southern United States old fashioned as well.
Which is the old fashioned. The Wisconsin old fashioned is limited to local flavors.
The Wisconsin old fashioned it packs less of a punch, and it's normally brandy rather than bourbon. And it's delicious. Well, it has
a sad state of affairs.
Yes, it has formulated many a supper club up here.
Well, there's very little that the state of Wisconsin has exported and treasured that I don't agree with, and I'm sure you could win me over to your old fashioned too.
Well, listen, we can you can probably it's a foregone situation right now, but the next time you travel up here, you and I will go to a supper club prior to our broadcast on a Friday night.
Okay.
And we will indulge in Wisconsin old fashions. We will do a fish fry. Ferrell, have you ever had a fish fry in Wisconsin before?
Not in Wisconsin, but in Missouri, home of the great fish fries.
Okay, so I've never been to a Missouri fish fry. I'm sure they're great, but we will do a fish fry up here. We'll get you some fried lake perch with the tartar sauce, the rye bread, the twice baked potato,
like good stuff,
and the Wisconsin old fashioned. So that's our plan here. Mother of God, we got a great audience hanging out with us tonight. Yeah. We have Steve Urgalos, Fantasy Sopranos. I'm thankful for a few things this year. Not drafting Saquon Barkley is one of them. Absolutely, for sure. I have to get to Rubio here. Wisconsin old fashioned is watered down. Here's the thing regarding that, Rubio. It's not watered down as far as the Wisconsin old fashioned goes. It just there's more of a sugary, okay. If you go to Kentucky or if you go anywhere else in the country, it is straight booze with the Wisconsin old fashioned or with traditional old fashioned. If you get a Wisconsin old fashioned here in Northeast Wisconsin, the whole idea of it is having 2 or 3 or 4 prior to your dinner and then having another 2 with your dinner and then maybe 1 or 2 after your dinner. You can't do that with the traditional old fashioned.
No.
I want to say it's watered down. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's not watered down. It's just it's a different experience here.
Yeah, multiple old fashions down here. There's not really a problem with drinking and driving because you can't find your car after multiple old fashions. So it's not really.
That is a great point. There's no drinking and driving because you will not be able to find your vehicle to get home.
No.
I want to bring up, speaking of old fashions, a guy that probably had a few old fashions in his time in Green Bay, Ferrell, Aaron Rodgers, has moved on to Pittsburgh. Yep. And the latest news we've heard out of Pittsburgh from Chris Adamski, who covers the Pittsburgh Steelers, says that Mike Tomlin stated to the media, Aaron Rodgers is going to start Week 13 against the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers are probably going to have a run-heavy game plan. At least that's what I would assume, based on not only Pittsburgh not having the proper weapons to throw to, but Buffalo's front 7 is not great. So this should be a good game for Jaylen Warren. Should be a good game for Kenneth Gainwell. More to come on that later on in the show. And if you look at what Rodgers has been doing all season long, It's been a check down situation for him. He has not been throwing downfield to Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington. That's not really been his game. DK Metcalf, yes, once in a while, I get it. And now he is dealing with a fractured wrist in his non-throwing hand. I think if you look at this game, this is going to be interesting to see how Pittsburgh attacks the Bills. But even with the depleted Bills front seven, even with the depleted Bills defense in general, I am down on Rodgers. I am down on DK Metcalf. I'm down on pretty much everybody on the Steelers offense except for those two running backs, Ferrell. I like Jaylen Warren. I like Kenneth Gainwell this week, but Rodgers is doing nothing for me. For him, as far as a superflex, secondary superflex quarterback, as well as DK Metcalf as a number 2 receiver this week. Down on both these guys. I like Gainwell and Warren, though.
It screams, Rodgers screams 15 to 17 point quarterback game, and that's not going to get you anywhere right now. Now, the Bills are so unbelievably bad in the rushing defense. You know, they've had 5 games where there's been 3 rushing touchdowns against them. One game where they gave up 4. It's hard for me to believe that this defense could be playing like this. I beg the Steelers to give the ball to Gainwell. Both running backs have been contributors this year, but neither of them, even if you put their stats together, would appear to have a complete and full season. There just not has been that much volume. Gainwell can catch the ball and do great things with it, as he's proven. That he went 3 weeks where he hardly touched the ball out of the backfield. You don't know what you're going to get. So, yes, I think you should be high on Gainwell, but you're praying that either you get some rushing and some passing. Both these running backs have right at a 5-point average, 4.7, 4.8 per game. Nothing's going to change about that. I agree with you, Balky. It's the Pittsburgh defense Pittsburgh offense was something to be avoided. And from a fantasy perspective, for what you need this week, you've got to look the other way.
Do you think that there's something to be said for the Steelers defense once again slowing down the Bills offense? You know, given the fact that Buffalo has Josh Allen, obviously capital letters. You have James Cook, okay. You have Khalil Shakir, okay. Dalton Kincaid, I don't know if he's going to play this week. More to come on that. And then Keon Coleman, who's been a non-factor. You know, you have all these other, Curtis Samuel gets placed on IR. They signed Brandon Cooks. It just seems like they're grasping at straws as far as the Buffalo offense goes. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you should be sitting Josh Allen, but some of these other players in Buffalo, I mean, outside of James Cook, Ferrell, I think everybody else needs to be on your bench when you're gunning for an FFPC league title this week, be it the main event or the Big Gorilla.
I've always been a believer in Khalil Shakir as a football player, but it hasn't been able to work for him as a fantasy player. Last week, 18 points. The week before, less than 1. And you can't handle that variance right now. Now, you might not have any better options. I thought I had a better option last week, and I wish I had started Shakir. So it's hard advice to give, but it's difficult to trust. Now, Allen is going to find enough targets from a football perspective to give you the quarterback numbers that you need. Plus, you've got that element of him with his feet. Now, and I get some guys that call in and say, oh, my God, Allen's been quite a bust. No, I think you've got a whole AFC conference that has spent their offseason trying to get in position to beat this player. And he does not have quite enough on the offensive side of the ball to help him out. He's got good players, but he doesn't necessarily have any great players. And that will be the charge of this team, to bring in through free agency and to bring in through the draft players that can be great players for him to return. And, this league has its peaks and valleys, and Josh Allen is far from through, and you could do worse with a starting quarterback this weekend.
Now, one of those quarterbacks that you could do worse with, I'm going to bring up right now. Ferrell, Shane Steichen. I'll bring this up here. Tom Pelissero had a report and this is basically utilizing the words of head coach Shane Steichen, who confirmed that Daniel Jones is going to start against the Texans in Week 13.
Okay.
Despite a problem with his fibula. Daniel Jones has been reported to having a potential of fractured fibula that he is trying to play through right now. Jones apparently looked good in practice, although there were some videos that were posted on X that did not look great for Daniel Jones as he's trying to play through this broken fibula. And honestly, it's fine if you're going up against the Bengals defense or, the Giants defense or one of these also rents. He is not going up against those defenses. He is going up against the Houston Texans defense that ranks 6th in the NFL in sacks. And if you look back to last week, going up against that high-powered Buffalo Bills offense, they sacked Josh Allen 5 times in that game. We love the Colts. We have loved the Colts all year. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren. This is all great, but they all hinge this week, apparently, on the fractured or potential fracture with Daniel Jones and his leg. How nervous are you this week in starting players like Pittman, Pierce, Warren, Taylor, knowing that Daniel Jones is battling through a reported fractured leg?
You got to start your number one receiver. You've got to start your number one running back. Man, pretty good tight end up there. If this player can't go, the number 2 quarterback will go. I'm a big believer in next man up football. I'm troubled by the fact that this player is I say it all the time. The training room is real superstars in football, especially at this point in the season. And, he's a gamer. If he wants to go, I'm still a little troubled by the nature of the injury, but I don't understand the injury, Balky. It sounds one way. It might not be as threatening as it is. We put our trust in the training staff, and you've got to play those Colts players because chances are you don't have anybody better, especially with these early games that we've seen. If you didn't start players on Thursday or today because you figured you were going to start the aforementioned Colts, you can't change in midstream now. And certainly let's leave Josh Downs on the bench. Let's do that too.
Well, okay. If you, and I know this is kind of sacrilege when it comes to asking you this question, Ferrell, who is the number 1 receiver in the Colts offense right now? Is it still Pittman or is it actually Alec Pierce?
No, it's Pittman. Pierce is a great downfield receiver. I very much admire Pierce. If we got bonus points for 25-plus yards catches, that's the guy I'm going to. That's the guy I'm going with. But Pierce Pierce has great long speed, tracks the ball well, has a history of winning the 50-50 catch. I like this player. I like him a lot, and I wish they used him differently. They never have. He's a home run hitter. Imagine if for your beloved Milwaukee Brewers, Balky, if you had a guy that came up to bat and all he did was ever swing at the fence. He's the Dave Kingman of the Colts offense.
Wow. We're getting it. This is not even a Milwaukee Brewers reference. This is like a Seattle Pilots reference.
Yeah, it's my only baseball reference in the history of the show.
This is insane that we're getting this from Ferrell Elliott tonight, a Dave Kingman reference tonight on the program. We love it. We also love all the questions we're getting in tonight on YouTube chat. We're going to get to Larry Schechter in a little bit, but I do want to bring up one Bill Hollywood here. If I can bring it up on the show, I'm going to try right now. Yeah, he says, hey, Ferrell and Balky, do you guys like Devon Vele this week at all? I have 3 people I'm deciding on, and something is telling me to play Vele. Ferrell, I'm going to tell you this right now. Bill Hollywood, I'm speaking to you right now. I'm going to look right into the camera.
Knowledgeable player.
Do not play Devon Vele.
Do not play
Devon Vele. No inkling on, I don't know who you're deciding between. This could look really bad.
I love Devon Vele, the talent. I love Devon Vele, the player. I don't love him, the fantasy player.
No, I'm staying away from him this week.
Yes.
So, Bill, whoever you're deciding between, eliminate Vele, and you can bring up the other guys you're deciding. Hopefully, it's not worse than Vele, but I get it if it is. So we'll bring it up, or we'll hash it out if you can bring up the other options tonight. Okay, Raptor J76. I left Swift and Monangai on my bench.
Oh my God!
Listen, I don't. My son has been castigating me all afternoon after the Black Friday game today with the Bears and Eagles. He's like, "Why didn't we play Swift?" I'm like, "Listen, it's fantasy football. I'm not going to get them all right." I'm flabbergasted at how well the Bears played, how well the running game was for Chicago. I don't have a good reason for it. So if you benched Swift, you were not alone. Ferrell, I benched Swift in a bunch of leagues today.
What were you thinking about? Who did you have to put over him?
Well, there's a bunch of leagues.
Okay, give me like 2 or 3 guys.
Oh God. Well, let me bring it up here right now.
Yeah, I gotta know who you're playing over there.
I mean, most of the time, like I mean, especially after last week, I did not feel great about DeAndre Swift, given how involved Kyle Monangai was on the team. Oh, you know what? I'm just looking at it right now. I did play Swift in a league where, it was over Pacheco and Kamara, and Omari and Hampton, which I didn't think he was going to play. And it doesn't sound like he's going to play this week.
How many running backs you have rostered on this team?
Well, that was a dynasty league where I've stockpiled a bunch of no, but there was another league where I played Rico Dowdle, Travis Etienne above him, and I will have to flex out. I already flexed out Yoshavas yesterday, and I currently have Matt Collins in there. I could dispense with Keyshawn Boutte or Bam Knight. So I may have screwed up there with benching DeAndre Swift. I have Aaron Jones. I could play Aaron Jones there as well.
I perhaps did not see the problem there. He was an aggressive start for me. I don't, Stephen G in Fantasy Soprano says he benched Swift also. I don't understand. Against Philadelphia, 2 things were going to happen. If they ran the ball, they would be successful. If they didn't, if they were unsuccessful running the ball, short passing game, Swift excels in both. In both, Philadelphia, from what I can see, didn't look like they were ready to play in the first half, defensively or offensively. And Bill Hollywood's right. I watched that player run today, and I think everybody's going to be moving this player up the board. And next year starts here with Super Sunday. Bill may well be coming.
I was just going to say that, Ferrell. We are like what? About a little over 2 months away from draft.
Yeah, very little over. The magic number somewhere in the high 60s.
And the center of the fantasy football universe will be Caesars Southern Indiana for the Super Bowl this year, where we will, and I'll be in attendance as well for the first time. Very excited about this.
We're going to do the show from Kentucky.
Well, I probably could, quite frankly. I haven't thought, like, I'm more trying to figure out like drafting my teams that weekend, but I probably will do the draft, or I will do the show live in Kentucky for Super Bowl weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun when we're drafting all these teams. And if you want to take advantage, KFFSC.com, KFFSC.com is where to go to play in the KFFSC Super Sunday drafts that Ferrell will have going on there. A lot of fun. I can't wait for it this year. The bourbon will be flowing, the drafts will be going, and we will be able to watch the Super Bowl in the highest fashion at Caesars Southern Indiana. That's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. Let's get into, oh my God, we are way late on this. My apologies. I'm rambling here tonight. We have to get into tonight's guest, ladies and gentlemen.
We got a guest.
You know him, you love him. He registered for a boatload of FFPC Big Gorilla drafts this year. He has made the playoffs in half of them this year, which is a pretty good ratio. He also is a 2-time author, including the author of The History of Fantasy Sports and the stories of the people who made it happen. So if you ever wanted to know about the history of fantasy football, the history of fantasy sports in general, and how this came to be, you can read this book and listen to these firsthand accounts that our guest tonight interviewed and got the stories behind it. It makes a great gift for Christmas, the holidays, Hanukkah. You can buy it on Amazon right now. And the author is joining us here tonight. You connect with him on X at Larry Schechter. He is indeed the incomparable Larry Schechter. Larry, good evening and welcome tonight. Sorry we kept you waiting. You had a happy Thanksgiving this year. Good evening, my friend.
I had a happy Thanksgiving, except I'm in the group that benched Swift.
Oh,
but listen,
I've been depressed. I've been a little depressed the last several hours about that.
I'm part of this group, and I got over it pretty quickly, Larry. And I don't know how you treat your fantasy players and your fantasy lineups, but I'm always of the point where, like, I kind of ruled him out early. Like, after what I saw in week 12, I'm like, God, I can't trust this guy in week 13. And it was one of those things where, yeah, he crushed it. He was great, but I never really considered starting him. So I got over it pretty quick. But it sounds like you're still working through sadness.
Well, gentlemen, you made reasons to bench Swift. Now, I must confess something while all of you are falling on the Swift sword. Who is the kicker, Balky, for Cincinnati Bengals? What's his name?
Evan McPherson.
Well, Evan McPherson was on most of my rosters, and I waived him off about 3 or 4 of them this week before he had a 25-point game for absolutely no reason other than I thought maybe if they get in the red zone, they're going to let Burrow run out, So look, stupid is as stupid does.
Well, Larry is not stupid. I can tell you that right now. And Larry, I have to give you props right at the top of the show. We will get into the book here, I promise you, and you'll probably work the book into a lot of the questions that you're going to answer here tonight. But your FFPC Big Gorilla teams, of all of them you signed up for this year, I checked before we came on air tonight. Half of them are in the league playoffs this week, which is great. You love that. You try to win your league playoffs. I get it. But ultimately, the goal is winning the $1 million grand prize.
Yeah.
When you look at these teams that you drafted this year, knowing that 3 of them are in the league playoffs this year, you think any of them have the juice? How confident do you feel like any of these teams have the chutzpah, have what it takes to make a deep run in winning this 7-figure grand prize this year in the Big Gorilla?
I am extremely confident that none of these 3 teams.
Oh, Larry! Damn it, Larry!
It would be a minor miracle. I mean, honestly, they're just not strong enough. If you look at the teams in the playoffs, and I'm just looking at the 6 leagues that I'm in. You got a few teams that are kind of going to typically score 155 to 160 points a week, and my 3 teams just aren't that strong. They're like around 145 points maybe. So, and that's just my own leagues. When you talk about, how many people are in the playoffs, 2,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
so
it'll be right around there. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of teams a lot stronger than mine. So,
but Larry, your guys could blossom at the right time, give you a couple back-to-back 200s and 190, and bam.
Yeah, it
could happen, Larry.
That's what it'd be, like a minor miracle. And here's the thing too, I have 3 teams in the playoffs, but only one of them is guaranteed to be in the overall round. My other 2 teams, they have to win the league championship to advance to week 15. So that's part of the problem too. I'd feel better if all 3 of them were going to be in the finals for sure.
All in all, a success.
And my one that's guaranteed to be in the whole run. I'm on Ross St. Brown.
Oh. Well, did any of them have Travis Kelce? Larry, when we were getting together at the Pros versus Joes this year, back in the summer, I tried to plant the proverbial Kelce flag. I called for 90 catches. He may not make it. Looks like on pace to 85. I called for double-digit touchdowns. The way they're using him in the red zone, he's probably not going to get there. But I was glad I drafted him, and based on how he was being drafted, even the later pick that I used, I might have overpaid. Is Kelce one of the guys, and what do you do with him? Are you shrinking in his opportunities at Houston this weekend? What's your thoughts on this player, and are you moving forward with him on the teams you're having?
Well, I got Kelsey in my first 4 drafts, and I thought he was a good value for his ADP. And I like he was in better shape. He lost weight. It seemed like he was a little rejuvenated, and I thought it was a good value at his ADP. And I ended up taking him in my first 4 drafts. Then they played the Thursday night game, and he looked pretty awful. And that made me rethink the whole thing, and I avoided him in my final 2 drafts. But he's turned out great. You know, was he get 16 points a game average or something like that? He's been fantastic. But he does have a very tough schedule coming up, not just next week, but through the rest of the playoffs. He's got every team he's facing is good against tight ends. But you got to start him. I mean, it's unlikely anybody's going to have a better option than even him with a tough matchup.
So even against one of the best defenses in the league in Week 14, Larry, you're still rolling Kelsey out there, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's say he's been averaging something like 16 points a game.
Right. Yep.
So if he's got a tough matchup, you know, what would the projection be? Maybe 13 points? Maybe 12? You know,
you can make the case it'd be shorter than that or smaller than that, but okay.
Well, if you think it's going to be less than, say, 12, you may have a better option.
Okay.
But, you know, it's a lot about the options. You know, I heard you talking before about Khalil Shakir, and you know, he's kind of like a borderline guy. You know, a lot of teams would have a better option, a lot of teams wouldn't have a better option. You know, those are the tough calls. I mean, you know, every week there's a few tough calls. Especially the FFPC, you have so much more flexibility than some other leagues because you have the 2 flex spots.
And Larry likes the median number on Kelsey. And I've been very, you know, from a fantasy perspective, we needed more touchdowns, and we're not getting them in the red zone because he stands up, sort of chips somebody at the offensive line, and then sort of ghost walks his way into being a decoy, or perhaps a guy that maybe gets lost in the wash that Patrick finds. He's a hell of a player to use in that way down around the goal line. That's been my biggest disappointment with him this year.
And Ferrell, that's definitely warranted. I've just been counting my lucky stars with Kelsey in dynasty leagues and how deep I was able to get him in drafts this year, because everybody just kind of sold out. Like, oh, we're done with Kelsey. And then I scraped up the remains, and I've been living off those remains at tight end in many of my leagues this year. That probably is not going to happen in 2026, but I'm enjoying it while I can right now. Larry, let's get into Denver here. If you look at the NFL schedule in Week 13, the Sunday night game, I believe it's Sunday night. Yeah, it's Sunday night. The Denver Broncos visit our nation's capital to take on the Commanders. And if you look at the Denver passing offense over the better part of the last month, you will notice that Troy Franklin is the guy that has been getting the most targets in that offense over Cortland Sutton, over J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, Evan Engram, and the like. Knowing that Franklin is getting this much attention from Sean Payton and Bo Nix, are actually both these guys startable, Sutton and Franklin, on Sunday night against the sieve that is the Washington Commanders defense? People, we've been trying to answer the question all season long: is it Franklin over Sutton, right? And now I think the proper question to ask is it Franklin and Sutton, not necessarily on the same team, your same fantasy team, but if you have Franklin, if you have Sutton on different teams, do both these guys need to be started on Sunday Night Football with Bo Nix throwing to him against that Commanders defense?
Well, first of all, I have Sutton on all 6 of my teams. So I'm very familiar with him. He's been a disappointment, you know, definitely not what I was expecting. And it certainly seems like at this point, Franklin's like the 1A and Sutton's the 1B. So if I had Franklin, he'd be probably pretty much a must start. And Washington's pass defense is bad. Sutton, as of a few weeks ago, give or take, I realized, okay, Sutton is not a must start anymore. He's definitely not what I thought he was going to be. He's decent, but he's not what I thought he was going to be. You know, he's like a 3rd or 4th round pick. That's a guy you would think if he's healthy, you're playing him every week, no matter what. So now I have to look at my options when I'm looking at Sutton. And this week, for example, my 6 teams, I've Sutton starting in 4 of the 6, and he's on the bench in 2 others. You know, he's kind of like that one of those borderline flex guys. You might have a better option, you might not. It wouldn't shock me if one of the final weeks though he goes off for a big week. I mean, his rapport last year, you know, him and Nix were so good together.
Yeah.
The game against Dallas was Franklin's coming out party, and he still has not, with the volume of pass targets he's getting. I don't know if they're high quality targets or not, but I don't know if they're downfield targets. But there's potential for Franklin to explode way beyond what he has done so far for games that look a little bit more like Dallas.
Ferrell, I want to go out to YouTube right now and just hit up Rubio's question here for Larry. Well, it's really out for all of us, but he says, I really want to know y'all's thoughts on RJ Harvey this week. Obviously, no J.K. Dobbins as he's still on IR. We heard some news this week that he could return prior to the end of the 2025 season, but he's not returning prior to week 13 in the NFL. And I think this is interesting in regards to RJ Harvey this week, who is taking on the Commanders defense, which, you know, by and large, the rush defense, the pass defense, neither one of them, Larry, has been great as of late. When you think about RJ Harvey, I think that this week, the question is not who he's going against from a defensive standpoint. The question is who he's going against to compete with touches in Denver, Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Bidet, whatever, and what have you. But when you think about RJ Harvey and his fantasy production in week 13, Larry, for those people that are considering starting him, what do they need to take into factor, before they click yes or no on RJ Harvey? What kind of production do you think that Harvey is going to have against the Commanders in week 13, Larry?
I'm not real familiar with Harvey. I'd have to look that up. You have an opinion on that, Ferrell?
Yeah, he does. He's not getting a lot of carries, and he's not. There's a sneeze in here. Coming, guys. He's not getting a lot of carries, and he's not turning them into productive yards. His point scoring has been in the receiving game. Rubio, I don't know. He hasn't done much since playing the Bengals back in September to produce any kind of yardage game. He had some good moments against the Cowboys because he found the end zone. He's been a better fantasy player than he has been a Denver Bronco running back. And I love the player. I love the potential, but it's kind of like a fuse that quits sizzling, so to speak.
Ferrell, we got another question from our good buddy Jimmy Williams in that same game, but on the flip side of it, what are your thoughts on Deebo Samuel this week against the Broncos, Ferrell?
Woo, fellas, I've been away from the Deebo situation for so long. I admire him so much as a player, but I think our fantasy values for him, even at his depressed price in the draft, was still too much. I did not want to have the player 1 year too long. I think the guys that drafted him have had him 1 year too long. And so, at this point in the season, I'd have to defer to Jimmy. Jimmy, what do you think about it? Because Jimmy's been right a lot in our KFFSC league. And I bet, there's the one guy that sure didn't. The Bears fan that Jimmy is, he sure did not bench Swift today. So, he's on a roll.
I will say this about Samuel, and I am forced to start him in a couple of leagues this week. I don't feel great about it. I think he's okay. I don't think he blows up. I don't think he's a total train wreck. I think you're looking at more of like a, 4 for 50, 4 for 60, and maybe like a 30 or 40% chance of the touchdown. So I don't love him this week at all, but I'm playing him. Maybe this is a detriment to how I've drafted my teams this year, that I have to play this guy in a few leagues. But I don't think he kills you this week, Jimmy. That's my best. That's my best assertion on Deebo Samuel in week 13.
What percentage of a touchdown did you say from 30%?
I said between 30 and 40% percentage.
Okay, so if he's like 4 for 50 or 60 with about a 30 or so % chance of a touchdown, that's like around 12 points roughly.
Yes.
And that's kind of like where a lot of the flex options are. Unless you have a really strong team or a really, really horrible team, your flex options are probably in that 12-point range, give or take a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at, Larry. I think like he is fine as a flex. I don't expect much from him, and I don't think he kills me either. And that's where I'm at with Deebo Samuel this week. So hopefully that helps you out, Jimmy, on that. Ferrell, go ahead. Let's talk Steelers running backs here.
Steelers running backs. Larry, I started the show just begging them to give the ball to Gainwell. So yeah, it's there's so many running backs. If you watched the Ravens play this past week, you're begging the Ravens to give the ball to Henry. I think there were 12 carries or so. What do you foresee? Balky says only play Pittsburgh running backs. I think Balky's right, but what do you see for them? How do you think that this game will come together?
Well, I'll let you in a little secret. The guy that I chose when I benched Swift, I started Gainwell.
Oh,
wow!
So given that I started Gainwell over Swift, you can expect a horrible game from Gainwell.
Larry, it sounds like you're echoing some of the people you've interviewed for your book. That's really what it sounds like right there.
I mean, Gainwell, when that game when Warren was out, Gainwell was incredible. And then I thought after that he might be more of like a timeshare. In a couple of weeks, I started him, and he was, they went right back to Warren, and Gainwell was horrible. And it's like every week I've been wrong, so we'll see what happens. I just hope he doesn't cost me my playoff game. I hope benching Swift doesn't cost me my playoff game. We'll see what happens. But I'm expecting. I've got him in like that 12-point range.
Yeah.
Maybe like 6 carries and 5 receptions and like a 40% chance of a touchdown, something like that. But Gainwell's a guy. It wouldn't surprise me if he got 5 points this week, and it wouldn't surprise me if he got 18 points. I mean, he's.
Larry, we got to get these 12-point guys off your team.
No, we don't. Farrell, we don't.
I don't like to wish injuries on people, but if Jalen Warren could maybe just like wake up Sunday morning with like a horrible case of the flu, it'll be fine.
It's not even a matter of that. It's a matter of like, he's been nursing this, lower leg injury or whatever. It's a matter of like just saying like, hey guys, let's give him another week. Let's give him another week on the bench. Let's get Kenny Gainwell back out there so he can catch his 7 passes for 80 yards, maybe get in the end zone. He'll pile on his 30 or 40 rushing yards as well. That's what it's all about with Gainwell this week. Now, Gainwell has been a very interesting player who was with the Eagles last season, now with the Steelers this year. A guy who started with the Raiders this season, Larry, that is now on the Jacksonville Jaguars, has become very interesting. I wouldn't say exciting, but very interesting for big gorilla teams, for main event teams, and that's Jakobi Meyers. He ends up getting the Tennessee Titans in Week 13. Now, we found out that Brian Thomas has no injury designation. He is a full go for the first time in weeks. He will be a full go for the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. But given the fact that the Titans defense has been less than impressive for the majority of the season, how close to a must start for FFPC players at the flex position is Jakobi Meyers this week?
I would say he's far from a must start. He's a flex option. Because they got Brian Thomas back, as you said. They got Brenton Strange back last week. Parker Washington's been involved, and Myers has only been on this team for a few weeks, so it's really hard to say. He's another guy in that 11, 12-point flex range. In fact, I have Myers on 3 teams, and he's on my bench in all 3 teams.
Oh wow! Okay.
Now, if I needed to start, like, if we had like 3 or 4 flex spots, he might be in there, but he didn't quite make it with my options. It's hard to say when when receivers get traded to teams, or quarterbacks get traded to teams, it's really you never quite know really what's going to happen. I mean, sometimes like going into a draft, there's like a good receiver got traded to a new team and he gets drafted pretty early, and then he just isn't clicking with a new quarterback and that sort of thing. So I'd like to see some more games between Trevor Lawrence and Jacoby Myers, but also now Thomas and Strange back. There's a lot of competition. So he's definitely a viable flex, but far from a must start.
I would trust him over Khalil Shakir. That would be
Okay.
that would be. Maybe.
I'm like, that's more of a coin flip for me, Ferrell, but I get it.
I would take Shakir over him. I mean, Shakir is probably Josh Allen's number one target, especially if Kincaid's still out. Which I'm
Larry, there's one we can put 5 on it. We can go old school with Dizzle and Balky. We can put 5 on it. One of my favorite players in Detroit is Dave Montgomery, and you want to talk about Detroit's schedule the rest of the way and how does Montgomery deal with that schedule. But I think the biggest hurdle that Montgomery has experienced this year is how Detroit's been using him. Now with the changes that might be forthcoming with that lineup, how do you like Montgomery going forward there?
Well, it's like what I was just saying about when a receiver gets traded to a new team or something like that. I mean, Montgomery is the same thing. Like the head coach is using him differently than last year. New head coach, he's playing Gibbs as a real number one instead of more of a 1A, 1B like they were last year. So I have Montgomery on 3 teams, and he's been a disappointment.
Single-digit carries for the last 3 games. How could he not be a disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, he had one great game, and other than that, it's been pretty awful. He's not even really flex-worthy most weeks.
And even when he's productive with the few carries he gets, he still gets a few carries. It's not like let's serve the hot hand. It's kind of how it used to be in Detroit.
Yeah, it used to be. Yeah, he used to be a great 1-2 punch. So. His production just is just not good enough.
It's frustrating for somebody who invested in Montgomery, especially in games like the Green Bay game on Thanksgiving, where I thought that he would be more relied upon, especially when Devontae Wyatt went out for the Packers. I thought this is going to be Montgomery, a big second half for Montgomery. It just never materialized. And we've seen a lot of these situations never materializing for Montgomery this year. It's been frustrating. I want to go back to the quarterback position here, Larry. We're talking with Larry Schechter, the author of the History of Fantasy Sports, here tonight on the program. I have to ask you about Purdy. It was 1 week ago when I was doing all my shows and I was asking people whether Brock Purdy was going to be a league winner in 2025, fresh off of a road game where he threw for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks against the Cardinals. It was looking great. And especially when you consider that he was home against Carolina on Monday night, this should have been a great game. And yet he throws for fewer than 200 yards. He only throws for 1 touchdown. And he's picked off not once, not twice, but 3 times. Brock Purdy now goes on the road again this week prior to his week 14 bye. He goes on the road to Cleveland, Larry. And when you consider all the other options at quarterback, how hard do you think FFPC players need to be working to try to find another option, digging where they may off the waiver wire or in the deep recesses of their bench to try to figure out a better play at quarterback than Brock Purdy this week? Because I don't like the situation for Purdy in week 13 at all. I don't know how you feel about it.
It's definitely a tough matchup. I'd say it's very unlikely there's going to be anybody on the waiver wire at this point that would be better than Purdy. You probably, there's a good chance you have somebody on your bench that would be a viable option.
Rodgers over Purdy, Larry. What do you say?
Yeah.
You said yes. I love it. I love that.
But that's close. It's close. I mean, Purdy is pretty good ordinarily.
Yes.
Now I actually Purdy was dropped in I guess it was week 11 or week 12. He was dropped in one of my leagues, and I was all set to pick him up because I had the most fab, and I missed the FFPC rule that position players dropped as of week 11 can't be picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to place my fab bid, that's when I found out.
Oh,
But I was all set to take him as an as like I have Baker Mayfield's my best quarterback on that team. So I think Purdy is right up there.
And
Purdy's play has been so disappointing that for the first time in my football or fantasy football career, I've actually heard people say, "Gee, I miss Mac Jones."
And I will say this, guys, Mayfield may play this week. In fact, the latest update we got from him is that he is trending towards playing this week. Let me ask you this.
I would downgrade him a point or two because he probably won't run.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm with you on that.
Same with Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones dealing with this quasi broken leg or whatever.
He averages probably a couple points a week, between his rushing yards and running touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Quick, would you rather, Larry, with Brock Purdy? Brock Purdy this week at Cleveland or Tua Tagovailoa at home against the Saints?
That's close. That's close. Rodgers is close. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Cleveland's tough, but I wouldn't be shocked if Purdy actually has a decent bounce back game.
Okay.
I mean, he's got, he'll throw, McCaffrey will catch passes, and he's got good weapons. He's got his guys back. Ricky Pearsall's back. Jennings is back. Kittle's back. They're all back. He did look off last week, though.
Before
but what Purdy did, but Purdy was in my lineup in that last Monday night game. He was in one of my lineups, and this is one of my teams that was fighting to make the playoffs. They needed to win their game to make the playoffs. When it got to the end of that game, I had Purdy, and my opponent had McCaffrey and Rico Dowdell. My team was up by something like 5 or 6 points. Carolina had the ball. They threw 2 short passes to Dowdell, and now I'm up by a couple points. San Francisco got the ball back. McCaffrey ran a couple times. My lead was at 0.2.
Oh,
my lead. They had 4th and 1. I'm thinking they're going to punt the ball, and I hope they don't give the ball to Dowdell, or I'm done. They decided to go for it on 4th down. If they give McCaffrey the ball and he gets a couple of yards, I'm done. Purdy does a quarterback sneak, and he gains 3 yards, and then he does a couple of kneel downs. And I'm hoping that he doesn't do one of those -2 or -3 yard kneel downs. He did the -1 yard kneel down, so I won by 0.2 and made the playoffs.
Good for you, man. That's fantastic.
That's a whole chapter in book number 3, Larry.
Yes, it is. That is awesome for sure. Just real quick, Ferrell's got a question for you here, Larry. But
okay, Larry,
hold on, Ferrell. Before you ask it, would you? We just talked a lot about Purdy. Would you play Purdy at Cleveland this week, or would you pick up and start Tyrod Taylor at home against the Falcons over Purdy?
That's a close call. I mean, I'd have to really dig into that question, but I think Rodgers and Tua and Tyrod Taylor, if he is available, those are close calls.
So for all these quarterbacks, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Larry, but for all these quarterbacks, we've asked you about Purdy. For anybody who's facing this question, they need to delve deep into the research on this because these are all nuanced decisions when it comes to Purdy versus all these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually got Purdy on a couple teams, but he's on my bench this week.
Right.
I have to try to look up here who I'm starting, who my options are, but they're better than Tua and Rodgers.
Wait till Sunday and just choose the best weather. Okay.
Well, that's another thing. I check on
There is weather going on in Cleveland this week.
Just choose the best weather.
Yeah, you got to check the weather this time of year.
Larry, this is a tough question only because our guest last week nailed it. We asked him to give us a bust, give us a popular FFPC player, a player everyone is counting on. Give us this week's bust. And he came back with Justin Jefferson. And it proved to be that Justin Jefferson disappointed owners at a rate of like 8 points last week. Now, we've already had Barkley busting. We've already seen some problems across the Philadelphia lineup. But who can you tell us is a player that you would completely avoid this week if you possibly could? You paid you paid draft capital for him. And, some people will say you got to start that guy based on where you draft him. Larry says no way because Larry calls him a bust. And who is that sleeper that no one really knows about? And God forbid if you're looking for a Saturday sleeper, a Sunday sleeper or Sunday morning sleeper when you're doing your bidding on Saturday night for the last go round, is there one that you can identify?
I'll take Brock Purdy as a bust. No, I'm kidding.
No, you've already used him, Larry. You got to give us a fresh
And
play.
I'm also going to take Brock Purdy as my sleeper. I'll go both ways. I'd be right either way. I don't really have an answer.
Isn't that in your book? Didn't the old tout sheets they used to give one guy to 50% of the customers and the same guy to another 50%, and they could at least have some half their group would think they'd come in with a great choice.
Yeah, that's what the betting advice people used to do, or I don't know if they still do it, but
I don't know if anyone's green enough to buy it.
I don't really have a good answer to that question, but I will give one piece of advice that not everybody does this, but I think that they should, is if you're in the playoffs, make sure you have two kickers.
Yeah, I think that's it. Hey, Bill Hollywood is helping you out on both ends, Larry.
We 15, 16, 17, there's no fab. Kickers sometimes do get hurt. You don't want to be in the playoffs, take a zero because your kicker got hurt.
No kidding.
Larry, I want to get into the book here, the history of fantasy sports and the stories of the people who made it happen. This is something, and listen, I don't know if there's ever been anything done that's been as heavily researched as this book, as far as back in the day, fantasy baseball, fantasy football, it was all just about the teams, the actual teams playing, and we got involved in that. And then all of a sudden there was this idea of drafting our own players onto teams. You have the story on how this came to be. You have the story on how fantasy sports developed. You have the story on how it kind of exploded with the internet, right? With all the content websites. You have the story of DraftKings and FanDuel, SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, experts leagues, high stakes leagues. Like, this is like really, this book that you have written covers literally everything. And I have to ask you too, in regards to everything I've just said, what else is in this book too, that I think people who are watching this show that have been playing fantasy football for years, what else is in this book that they're going to find really intriguing?
Well, it covers everything, how fantasy sports developed, even from precursors of fantasy sports like board games and Stratomatic and APA, through the invention of fantasy baseball, the invention of fantasy football, how they spread, everything you mentioned, plus the first high stakes league and FFPC, how that happened, and the news services and the publications. It's just like the entire thing. There's never been a book like this. Nobody really knows how this all happened. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, it's not just when people hear history book, they think, probably kind of interesting, but boring. this book is not boring at all. It's fun. People say it's fun to read. It's fascinating. The stories are great. There's a lot of stories that are just inspirational, fascinating, funny, about what people did. And if you play fantasy sports, you got to read the book. You'll love it. I guarantee you'll love it. And even like Paul Charchian, who is he's the president of the FSTA for 12 years. He's been in the industry his whole life, and he read it and he said, I didn't even know most of this stuff.
And Church should know everything,
well,
right?
That's the thing. I spent 18 months full-time research, interviewing dozens of people, just Googling article after article after article and putting it all together.
So this is a book that has been signed off on by Tristan Cockcroft from ESPN, Michael Fabiano from NFL.com fame, Brad Evans, who is a very, very poignant person in the industry, formerly of Yahoo and everything. These guys have all said this is a fantastic read, and I would second that notion as well. And we're into the season. It's Black Friday, for God's sake. Everybody's been shopping. Everybody's looking for that perfect gift. And Larry, I think this drills down for people who are getting ready to wind down the fantasy football season here in the next few weeks, and they want to scratch that itch. They want to keep their fantasy football thing going. This is a good off-season reading to figure out, this thing that has become so prevalent in my life. This thing that I love, fantasy football. How did it get started? How did it not only get started, but how did it become the megalith, the monolith that it is today? This is good off-season reading as well for anybody interested. And I think you stumbled on some great interviews and some great stories over the course of your research for this book. Yeah,
and there's fantasy everything. It's you got fantasy Iditarod, fantasy cricket.
Yep.
Fantasy everything. There are 200 million people are playing fantasy cricket in India. 200 million.
Larry, will you be live at Planet Hollywood in 2026 for the FFPC? Well, just say yes.
Yes.
Just say yes. Good, because I want you to promise everybody that buys your book tonight that's in the chat room can get an autographed copy from. You'll sign their book in Las Vegas and greet them, and it'll be wonderful. So let's get
now here's your options. The book is available paperback and ebook. Amazon's the easiest place to get. Amazon, you see all the details, all the reviews. It's got like a 4.6 rating. But it's also, if you don't like Amazon, it's available most booksellers' websites, paperback and ebook. And then you can bring your book to 2026 Planet Hollywood and I'll autograph it.
There you go.
Or if you can't wait that long for an autograph, if you sell me $5,000, I will mail you an autograph book.
A low cost of $5,000. I have posted it for those of you
it's
who
Black Friday. You can get it for $4,800. I'm sorry.
Yes, and I wait for the next book with the chapter. I believe in Kelsey, but not in Swift. So that's what I'm waiting for.
I have posted, for those of you watching on YouTube, I have posted a link to it on Amazon right now where you can purchase it. This is fantastic. Listen, obviously, we're going to tell you to buy it for yourself. But I have a feeling if you're watching this show tonight or listening, streaming, whatever, you know somebody who would love to be reading this. And it would make a great Hanukkah, Christmas, holiday gift for them as well. So definitely click on that link, get it today, Amazon.com. That's where you can buy it. And of course, bring it out to Las Vegas in 2026 and Larry Schechter will autograph it for you.
Bring it by my house next week and I'll autograph it for you.
And there you go. You can do that as well. Absolutely. Larry, you mentioned, you touched on it. Amazon is the best place to get it, but people can get it elsewhere, or where would you recommend they go?
Well, Amazon's the best place to get it. And if you want to see like more details of what's in it or read reviews of it, they're all on Amazon. But if some people, there's some people they don't like Amazon. Anywhere, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore probably has it available.
You have the better part of four, well, not even the better part, more than 4 dozen reviews on this. Damn near a perfect rating as far as reviews go on this book. I would encourage everybody to check it out. The History of Fantasy Sports and the Stories of the People Who Made It Happen. Larry Schechter is the author, and he joins us on the show tonight. Larry, listen, continued success on the book sales, continued success on your Big Gorilla teams, which
Yes.
I know you are definitely bearish on, but I'm telling you, all it takes is just getting them there, and then we'll see what happens as far as that $1 million grand prize goes. Congratulations on a very successful fantasy football run. Congratulations on this book that has been awesome. Everybody who's read it said, like, oh, this is so much fun. Love hearing about this. Love learning about this. At Larry Schechter on X as well. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you had an even better holiday season as well.
Something just recently happened to my X account. It got suspended. I don't know why. And then I tried to get it restored, and they're telling me that my email address is not associated with this account.
Oh,
and it's like the Twilight Zone.
yes.
So I was waiting a couple of weeks to see if I could get it cleared up, and I've given up. So actually, I just started a new account tonight. It has like no followers yet. It's Larry Schechter 2. So if you see one, if you look on X for Larry Schechter and it says this account's been suspended or something, look for when it's a Larry Schechter 2 is the new one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I got to follow.
If you go now, you can be the first follower.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm on it. Larry, this was so much fun tonight, man. We will encourage everybody to go to Amazon to pick up this book for the holiday season because it's a great read. And I know anybody who gets it for themselves or gets it for somebody else, they're going to love it. For the fantasy sports person in your life that you're looking for that gift for, this is it right here. The History of Fantasy Sports and the Stories of the People Who Made It Happen. Larry Schechter is the author. He joins us tonight here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Larry, continued blessings for everything in your life. Good luck trying to win this $1 million. And we will talk with you again very soon, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend.
All right. Thanks. You too.
You got it. That is Larry Schechter, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. The author of the History of Fantasy Sports and the Stories of the People Who Made It Happen. Get it now on Amazon.com. I just flashed up the link there. Or you can just Google it simply, The History of Fantasy Sports, Amazon, and it'll bring you right to Larry Schechter's book on there. Not the first book Larry's written, too. And this is a good one. Yes, we have. I forgot to. Oinker makes an appearance here tonight as well. Senior Oinker makes an appearance for Ferrell. We have gone way over time tonight, Ferrell. And I do apologize for that. So I will let you go into that good night. I will wish you good luck in all of your leagues in week 13. And we will talk with you again next Friday night for another great episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Thank you so much, my friend.
See you then, Balky.
And enjoy it. That is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Mr. Ferrell Elliott. I want to thank him. I want to thank Larry Schechter, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you for watching tonight. We will be back next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern time. In case you missed the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown this past Tuesday night, Brad and Bob Cruz, the 47-time FFPC League champs and 51st place overall in the FFPC Main Event, joined me on the show. Next week at 10 p.m. Eastern time, ESPN.com's own Mackenzie Kramer, who is a researcher extraordinaire, producer for ESPN. He is also 18th place overall in the FFPC Main Event as he tries to cash a $1 million grand prize in the main event there. He will join me 10 p.m. this coming Tuesday on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. In case you missed it, we did a special Insider Access show on the Better Sports Network this past Monday at 7 p.m. as opposed to doing a show on Thanksgiving night when I'm assuming nobody would be watching it live. Mark Garcia from 1 Week Season and Roto World joined me on that. You can watch the replay on the FFPC socials as well as the Better Sports Network socials. We will be back this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time with Rotoballer's Frank Emirante will join me, which I'm very excited about. That's going to be a great show. Again, 7 o'clock Thursday night. FFPC Weekly Challenge is live. No draft, no salary cap. Just pick 10 or 12 players if you want to play with kickers and defenses. Those lineups lock at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can win up to $2,500, 1 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, 10, 30, and 100-team contest. One player per NFL team. If you want one, trying to think of a good example. If you want Bijan Robinson, you can't have Kyle Pitts. If you want Bo Nix, you cannot have RJ Harvey. myffpc.com, myffpc.com is where to go. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share with your friends, share with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be upcoming Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time with one Mackenzie Kramer. Thank you so much. Hopefully everybody had a happy Thanksgiving and good luck in your FFPC main event and Big Gorilla playoffs. For Ferrell Elliott and Larry Schechter, I'm Eric Balkman. This has been the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Normally I take this time to remind everybody that we have a Europe game at 9:30 on Sunday morning, or we have all these teams on bye for the first time in weeks, maybe since like week 3 or week 4. We have nobody on bye this week. We have nobody playing in Europe or anywhere else. So enjoy it. Enjoy week 13 with everybody playing and not having to get up early on Sunday to submit your lineups. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm thankful that we have such a great audience for this show, and can't wait to do next week's show, to bring it to you live here on the FFPC YouTube channel or anywhere you're listening, streaming, downloading. Thanks so much, everybody. Happy belated Thanksgiving, and we will talk with you again next week.